In the year 2317, humanity reached the stars. We built cities on moons, mined asteroids, and sent our flags across the galaxy. But in our hunger to expand, we broke something we didn't understand. A signal was sent, a warning we ignored. Across the stars, thousands of alien worlds heard that signal and saw us as a threat. One by one, they united, not to conquer, but to survive. And when their fleets filled the skies, the message was clear. The galaxy had declared war on humanity. Now the question is not how we fight, but whether we deserve to survive. The year was 2317, and humanity had become a species of stars. Ships the size of cities moved between planets. Moon colonies sparkled like necklaces of light. Children were born on Mars and grew up hearing Earth stories as fairy tales. For the first time in history, humans were united, not by peace, but by ambition. Everyone wanted more sky. Dr. Mira Soul, a communications scientist on the EVA-9 Deep Space Station, worked alone most nights. Her job was to study cosmic signals that drifted between galaxies, old pulsars, radio echoes, or sometimes alien whispers that turned out to be nothing more than static. She loved the silence of space. But one night, the silence changed. Her console beeped softly. A new pattern appeared on the screen, smooth, rhythmic, and structured. It wasn't random noise. It was language. The sound pulsed like a heartbeat, soft but clear. Mira frowned and ran it through her translators. The first line that formed made her breath stop. Cease expansion. Sacred zones ahead. She stared at the words, confused. It was not human coding. The syntax didn't match any known language, yet the message appeared in English. How? She whispered. The signal repeated again and again, each time stronger. It came from far beyond the edge of mapped space, a region marked on charts as Sector 0, a place no human had reached. Mira saved the data and called her supervisor, but he brushed it off. Probably a glitch or a reflection from our own network, he said. But Mira wasn't convinced. She ran cross-checks with outer probe data and discovered something strange. 5 other research stations had recorded the exact same pulse at the same time. It wasn't a glitch. It was a broadcast. The next morning, she sent the signal to Luna Command, the political and military capital of human space. Inside a large conference room with glass walls, Minister Vale and Admiral Cohen listened to Mira's report. She played the recording. The deep, slow hum filled the room like a heart beating inside a planet. Then the translation appeared, cease expansion. Sacred zones ahead. Vale laughed softly. Sacred zones? Are we talking about religion now? Mira stayed calm. Minister, this could be a warning. If there are other civilizations out there, Cohen interrupted. We've been exploring for 200 years. No confirmed alien contact. This is just interference. Then how do you explain identical data from 6 stations? Mira asked. Cohen folded his arms. Coincidence. Until someone fires a shot, it's just static. Vale ended the meeting with a polite smile. Thank you, Dr. Soul. We'll monitor it. But they didn't. The signal was logged and forgotten. Weeks passed. Humanity continued to expand. New mining ships moved towards Sector 0. They cut through nebulae, drilled into asteroids, and ignored the warning that only one woman had taken seriously. Then, it began. A transport convoy near Sector 0 lost all power for 13 minutes. Their engines, life support, and communications all went dark. The ships didn't explode, they simply stopped. After 13 minutes, power returned, and every system read, "No damage detected." The log showed nothing except a faint signal repeating in the background, "Cease expansion. Cease expansion." The event caused panic among the crew, but by the time the ships returned, news agencies had already called it a rare solar disturbance. Vale ordered all reports classified. The public doesn't need ghost stories, he said. Mira couldn't stay silent. She sent the raw data to the independent science networks. Within days, it spread across the colonies. Every scientist who examined the waveform agreed. It wasn't natural. Someone, or something, was sending a coordinated message across multiple systems. Public opinion split overnight. Some called it proof of alien life. Others said it was a government trick. Hashtags like Baba Sacred Zone and Baba First Warning filled the networks. The phrase "cease expansion" became a meme and a slogan. Then something new happened. At midnight, as Mira worked alone, her screen flickered. The signal returned, but this time it had changed. It wasn't coming from one source. Hundreds of identical signals were now appearing from across the galaxy. They flashed one after another until the star map on her display was covered in pulsing red dots. Mira leaned closer. The pulse rhythm shifted. The alien waveform rearranged itself, translating again. But this time the message was different. "We are many. Respect the line," she froze. The lights in the station dimmed for a few seconds, as if the power had been drained. Then everything returned to normal. She backed up the data twice, terrified that someone might delete it again. Moments later, her communicator buzzed. It was Admiral Cohen, his face pale on the screen. "Dr. Sol, we just received your alert." The same signal appeared in every relay across the outer systems. "All at once? Then you believe me now?" she asked. He hesitated. "Yes, but it's worse than that. The signal didn't just appear, it rewrote part of our network. It turned off entire satellites." "Like it knew how?" Mira's heart raced. "You mean it's inside our systems?" Cohen nodded slowly. "And every probe beyond Sector 0 has stopped responding. We've lost half our eyes in space." Mira looked out the window of the station. The stars seemed to blink in rhythm, like a heartbeat moving across the void. For the first time in her life, space didn't look silent. It looked alive and watching. Back on Luna, Minister Vale faced a storm of political panic. The signal had reached the public through leaked footage. People were afraid. Some demanded defense measures, others demanded communication. Vale tried to sound calm on live broadcast. "Humanity will not bow to superstition. We will continue our exploration." Mira watched the speech and whispered, "You just declared war without knowing it." Later that night, she stood by the observation window of EVA 9, staring into Sector 0. For hours, she saw nothing. Then faintly a shimmer, like starlight bending. A structure appeared in the distance, vast and translucent, spinning slowly. It wasn't metal. It looked like a living shell of light. She activated her recorder. "Unknown object detected near boundary coordinates. Appears to be forming a network structure." Her voice trembled. "It's beautiful." The object pulsed once. Her instruments went dark. The lights of EVA 9 flickered again. And when they returned, a single line of text glowed across every screen. "You were warned." Mira stared, speechless. Outside the window, stars were shifting, rearranging into patterns like eyes. Across the galaxy, thousands of worlds had seen the same message. The age of silence was over. The next morning, the universe no longer felt empty. Every major human station, from the icy moons of Saturn to the colonies of Alpha Centauri, reported the same thing: an organized network of signals moving through deep space. It was not a random pattern. It was communication. The alien message pulsed like a heartbeat through every system. "We are many. Respect the line." At first, humanity argued. Governments called emergency sessions. News anchors shouted on every screen, and social networks exploded with fear and disbelief. The word "many" scared everyone the most. Who were they? How many civilizations were out there, and how long had they been watching us? Dr. Mira Sol watched the chaos unfold from the EVA 9 space station. She hadn't slept in 2 days. Her eyes were fixed on the holographic star map that now displayed hundreds of glowing red points, each representing an active alien transmission node. She zoomed in on one near the border of human exploration. The signal structure was complex but organized, almost like music made of light. Her assistant, a young engineer named Cade, pointed to one of the patterns. "They're building a network," he said quietly. "Each signal connects to another. It's forming a ring around our territories." Mira nodded. "A border," she said. "A line we're not supposed to cross." On Luna, the political center of human civilization, panic was turning into anger. Minister Vale, standing in the grand chamber of the Human Expansion Council, slammed his hand against the table. "We will not be bullied by alien superstition," he shouted. "Our colonies depend on the outer mining routes. If we stop expansion, we fall backward." Admiral Cohen, who had once doubted Mira but now believed her, tried to stay calm. "Sir, the signals are not random. They have disabled several of our satellites without firing a shot. If they can do that remotely, imagine what they can do to our fleets. Vale glared. You're suggesting we surrender before the fight even starts? No, Cohen said. I'm suggesting we listen before it's too late. But listening had never been humanity's strength. Far beyond Mars, in the outer colonies, Captain Rian Dow led a fleet of cargo and defense ships. He was known as one of the youngest, most capable officers in the fleet, steady, loyal, and brave. His orders were clear. Escort the Omega mining convoy into the unclaimed asteroid zones of Sector 0. When Mira's warning reached him, he hesitated. She had included new data, proof that the alien signals were not random, but a shared interstellar defense system. Ryan sent her a private message. If you're right, this mission could trigger something bigger. But if I disobey orders, they'll court-martial me. She replied only one sentence. Better a trial than a funeral for humanity. He smiled sadly at the message and looked out the viewport. The convoy ships floated silently behind him, ready to cross the invisible border of the galaxy's warning line. Meanwhile, deep in the void, something vast was waking up. Alien fleets, unlike anything humans had ever seen, were moving. They were not chaotic armies, but coordinated systems. Different species working together under a single signal frequency. One planet, covered in crystal towers, sent organic ships that pulsed like living hearts. Another, made of molten rock, released mechanical serpents that slithered through space. Across the galaxy, 1,000 worlds lit up in unison, forming a vast defense web. The humans called it the Concordat Worlds. To the aliens, it was something older, a vow to protect life from the one species that refused to stop consuming it. Back at the Human Expansion Council, the debate reached a breaking point. Dr. Mira Sol was invited to testify before the council. She stood in the center of the glass chamber, exhausted but determined. Minister Vale, she began, we are facing something beyond politics. The Concord is not a single enemy. It is a living alliance. They've built peace among themselves for centuries. But to them, we look like a virus, spreading too fast, taking without asking. Vale smirked. You sound like you're defending them. I'm trying to save us, she said firmly. They warned us before acting. That means they prefer peace. But if we cross the line again, it will not be a warning next time, the council murmured in disagreement. Vale stood up. We will proceed with the Omega mining run as planned. If these creatures want to threaten humanity, they'll see what real power looks like. Mira closed her eyes. She knew then that war had already begun, not with weapons, but with arrogance. Out near Sector 0, Captain Rian Dow's fleet prepared to move forward. Convoy ready, said his first officer. Rian hesitated. Any new signals? Same as before, sir. The line is active. It's humming, Ryan gave the order. Cross on my mark. The ships began to move. Their engines flared, bright and powerful, slicing through the edge of the forbidden zone. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, every engine shut down. The lights flickered out. Communication screens went dark. The fleet drifted silently, powerless, surrounded by an endless void. Panic filled the comm channels. Systems offline! Engines dead! Backup power not responding. Ryan gripped his chair. Don't panic. Stay calm. He looked out into the darkness. Ahead, faint glows were appearing, hundreds of them. Shapes began to form. They weren't stars. They were ships. Alien ships forming a perfect circle around the convoy. Back on EVA-9, Mira watched the live telemetry data. Every human vessel beyond the border had gone silent. She could still see their transponders, but they weren't responding. Then a final signal appeared on her screen. It came not from the human fleet, but from the alien formation itself. The same pattern again, but this time, it translated into multiple human languages at once. The Concord of Worlds is formed. Humanity has been restricted. Withdraw and live, Mira's breath caught. The galaxy had spoken, clearly and in unity. She whispered to herself, They're not attacking. They're showing us what they can do without violence. Admiral Cohen called her from Luna. His voice was grave. Dr. Sol, the mining convoy lost all power. Every ship is floating. No casualties, but they're completely dead in space. It's like the galaxy just turned us off. Mira nodded slowly. That was the first strike. A war without fire. Hours later, Ryan managed to restore emergency power using manual ignition. The fleet limped away, silent and shaken. No one spoke during the return trip. Everyone understood now. They were not alone. And they were not in control. As Ryan looked back through the viewing window, he saw it. An enormous glowing wall forming at the edge of Sector 0. It wasn't metal or stone. It was energy, alive and shimmering, stretching across light years like a living curtain. It pulsed once. Then across every communication channel in human space, a message appeared in glowing letters. "The conquered is awake. Respect the line, or be removed," Ryan whispered. "They've declared war." But Mira, watching from far away, said softly to herself, "No. We declared it first." The galaxy had gone silent, no explosions, no lasers, no fleets burning in the dark, just silence, cold and total. Across every corner of human space, engines stopped. Satellites froze mid-orbit. Communication relays went blank. It was as if the universe itself had exhaled and turned the lights off. In the control room of EVA-9, Dr. Mira Soul stared at her blank monitor. "All networks down," said her assistant, Cade, voice trembling. Mira ran her hands through her hair. "How? They didn't fire a single shot." From the darkness, one light flickered back to life. On her console, a single waveform appeared, smooth, rhythmic, like a heartbeat. The alien signal had returned. This time it carried a simple translation: "We defend life webs. Withdraw." On Luna, panic filled the grand chamber of the Human Expansion Council. Screens blinked red, and power systems ran on emergency mode. The senators argued over who was to blame. Some shouted for war, others for surrender. Minister Vale stood at the center, furious. "They think they can cripple us without a fight?" Admiral Cohen answered sharply, "They just did. Every engine from here to the belt is offline. This is not war, this is control." Vale slammed his fist. "Then we take back control. Build weapons that don't depend on their systems. Show them human power!" Mira's voice came through the emergency channel, calm and steady. "Minister, power isn't the problem. Communication is. They didn't destroy anything. They sent a message, then decode it," Vale shouted. "Find their weakness!" But Mira wasn't sure there was one. Out near the border, Captain Riandau's fleet floated helplessly. For hours, they had tried to restart engines, but every system refused to respond. The crew's faces were pale and exhausted. The stars around them pulsed with a faint green glow, alien ships surrounding them in perfect formation. "Are they attacking?" the first officer asked. Rian shook his head. "No weapons detected. They're watching us." A low vibration echoed through the hull, not from the engines, but from space itself. The alien ships began to hum in unison, creating a deep, resonant sound. Every metal surface on Nexus 1, Ryan's flagship, vibrated softly with the same rhythm. "It's music," whispered an engineer. Ryan frowned. "It's a warning." Then, as suddenly as it began, the hum stopped. One by one, the alien ships vanished into warp, leaving behind only silence and a single glowing pulse on the radar, a digital signature in their wake. When Ryan opened the file, the translation was instant. "This is mercy. Leave our children sleeping." He didn't understand it then, but Mira did. On EVA-9, Mira spent the next 30 hours decoding every fragment of the alien signal. The message patterns were layered, not just sound, but structure. When she mapped the frequencies into visuals, they formed complex spirals, each one representing different star systems. Every spiral contained smaller waves, identical to the biosignatures of living planets. "They're not just defending themselves," she whispered. "They're defending life." Cade leaned over her shoulder. "Doctor, you mean?" "Yes," she said softly. "They think of ecosystems, forests, oceans, even bacteria, as part of one giant living network. And they see us as the threat that spreads too fast." She looked out the window toward the distant glow of Earth. "To them, we're the invaders. Meanwhile, the world below was tearing itself apart. On Earth, riots broke out as industries failed. Cargo ships couldn't move. Food and medicine couldn't reach the colonies. People demanded answers. News broadcasts called it the Great Blackout. Every night, the same phrase echoed across social media feeds: "We defend life webs. Withdraw." Some people began to worship the signal, calling it the voice of the galaxy. Others cursed it and demanded revenge. Vale used the chaos to tighten control, announced a new initiative, the Restoration Fleet, designed to rebuild humanity's own power systems independent from alien interference. "They turned off our engines once," he declared on every screen. "But they cannot silence human will. We will rise again." Admiral Cohen, standing behind him, said nothing. His eyes, however, were fixed on the faint green light blinking in the corner of the room, a reminder that the Concorde was still listening. In her quiet lab, Mira refused to give up on peace. She discovered something extraordinary. Hidden within the alien frequencies was a repeating pattern, almost like a question waiting for an answer. "It's not just a warning," she told Cade. "It's a protocol." "A test." "Test for what?" he asked. "For respect," she replied. "If we respond correctly, they might reopen communication." She worked through the night, crafting a response using harmonic waveforms and natural frequencies based on Earth's own magnetic field. The idea was simple: to show that humanity understood balance, not just technology. When the sequence was ready, she transmitted it into deep space. For minutes, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the lights on her console flickered. The ship's systems powered on, by themselves. Cade gasped. "It worked! They're letting us communicate again." Mira smiled in disbelief. "They're giving us a chance." On Luna, Admiral Cohen received the data. He called Vale immediately. "Minister, I think Dr. Sol found a way to restore limited contact. The Concord may be willing to talk." Vale frowned. "Talk? After they've crippled us?" "No. We answer with action." "What kind of action?" Vale's voice was cold. "A mining fleet is already preparing a new test run. With backup engines they can't shut down. We'll show them humanity bows to no one." Cohen's face darkened. "That's suicide." But Vale had already cut the connection. Hours later, the new fleet departed for the border, armed, powerful, and defiant. Mira, watching the data feeds, felt her stomach twist. She tried to send a transmission, but the Concorde's network went silent again. Then, without warning, a new pattern appeared on every human screen across the colonies. Not words this time, but a single glowing image, a spiral of light collapsing into darkness. It was followed by a message: "Next time, we will not disable. We will erase." The fleet crossed the border, and for a brief moment, all across the galaxy, every star dimmed, as if holding its breath. Hours passed. No word came from the fleet. Every sensor showed only static where they had entered the forbidden zone. No wreckage, no distress call, just silence. Vale stared at the black screens in disbelief. "They can't just vanish," he whispered. Mira closed her eyes. "They didn't vanish," she said quietly. "They were removed." She looked out into the stars, feeling the weight of what had begun. This was not a war fought with bullets or fire. This was a war fought with power over life itself, a war of consent, not conquest, and humanity had just failed the first test. The galaxy's answer came swiftly. One morning, every human ship trying to leave its home system simply stopped moving. Warp drives refused to activate. Stargates glowed red and went dark. Even small jump beacons turned cold. A single message appeared across all channels: "You are contained." Until you learn balance, the Concord of Worlds had placed sanctions on humanity, not with armies, but with silence. Faster-than-light travel was gone. Earth, Luna, and the outer colonies were cut off from each other, trapped inside their own star systems. At first, people panicked. On the Mars colonies, food began to run short. In the outer mining belts, workers had no way to return home. Earth's markets crashed. Politicians shouted for revenge, but the military couldn't move. It was like the galaxy had locked every door. On Luna, Minister Vale called for a secret meeting. "They've humiliated us," he said, voice cold. If they can turn off our ships, we must find a way to strike back. Admiral Cohen disagreed. Minister, the Concorde controls the very fabric of space. If we attack again, they could wipe us out entirely. But Vale wouldn't listen. Then we'll do it quietly, he said. A covert fleet. No broadcasts, no warnings. Meanwhile, Dr. Mira Sol worked day and night in her lab. She had finally earned the galaxy's attention, but now she wanted its forgiveness. Using fragments of the Concorde signal, she created something she called the Reciprocity Charter, a plan to map sacred zones, stop human expansion, and open communication channels again. Captain Rian Dao, grounded on Luna after the failed mission, met Mira secretly. They'll never approve this, he said. Vale wants war, not peace. Then we do it ourselves, Mira replied. If we can prove our intentions, the Concorde might lift the blockade. Before they could act, Vale's covert strike began. A hidden squadron of stealth ships jumped toward the conquered anchor, the massive living station that controlled the sanction field. Mira and Ryan tried to send a warning, but it was too late. From every telescope across the colonies, people saw a flash of white light at the edge of space. Then nothing. The fleet had vanished. No explosion, no wreckage, not even radio static. Moments later, the stars above Earth shimmered. A shockwave of green light spread across the sky, wrapping the planet in a faint glow. A single message appeared. This is your final warning. Continue and you will lose the sky, Mira whispered. They don't want to destroy us. They want us to stop. But she knew one thing for certain. The next mistake humanity made would be its last. The shockwave from the Concorde spread faster than light. For exactly 24 hours, every machine on Earth and its colonies went completely still. No engines, no satellites, no communications. Even artificial gravity failed on space stations. The world froze, cities went dark, skies went quiet, and the stars above pulsed faintly with a green glow. Humanity, a civilization built on endless noise, was suddenly forced into silence. Dr. Mira Sol stood at her window on Luna, staring at the motionless lights of Earth below. "This isn't an attack," she whispered. "It's a lesson. During the blackout, something remarkable happened. With the interference of machines gone, sensors began picking up new data. Faint energy lines running between planets, moons, and even asteroids. A living web, invisible before, now glowed faintly through the void. The Concorde was right, Mira said softly. Space isn't empty. It's alive. And we've been cutting through it like it was nothing. When the power returned the next day, no one celebrated. The silence had changed people. Markets stayed closed. War factories shut down. On Earth, people gathered in open fields just to look at the stars that had once terrified them. Minister Vale, however, refused to surrender. "They think silence can tame us," he said to his advisors. "But humans don't obey silence." He ordered new ships built in secret, this time shielded from alien interference. But Admiral Cohen resigned from his post in protest. "Every act of defiance is a nail in our own coffin," he told Vale. "We can't win this war. We can only survive it." In a quiet corner of the moon base, Mira met with Captain Rian Dao. He looked tired, older, but still loyal. "They've grounded me," he said. "But I'm not done yet." "Good," Mira replied. "Because I need your help." She showed him the respect protocol, a communication sequence she had created using the galaxy's own resonance frequencies. It wasn't a weapon, it was a handshake. "If we can send this through the Concorde's network," she said, "we can prove that humanity wants peace, not power." Ryan smiled faintly. "A scientist and a soldier trying to stop a war. Sounds impossible." "Maybe," she said, "but it's our only chance." Later that week, a new signal appeared across every human screen, not from the Conquered, but from Mira's transmission. It showed two hands, one human, one alien, meeting in a beam of light. For a moment, the galaxy didn't strike back. The silence held. Then a voice, deep and calm, echoed through every ship and city. "Send one envoy. We will hear you once." Ryan turned to Mira. "Looks like they're giving us one last chance." She nodded. Then we'd better not waste it. The message was clear. Send one envoy. We will hear you once. For the first time in history, all of humanity agreed on something. One voice would speak for them all. The decision was quick. Dr. Mira Sol would represent Earth, and Captain Ryan Dow would fly the ship. Their vessel, Solace, was small and unarmed, the only kind the Concorde would allow through its border. Every weapon, engine, and transmitter was inspected by alien drones before departure. The Concorde trusted nothing built by humans. Before takeoff, Mira stood on the launch pad, staring at the blue curve of Earth. "We started this," she said softly. "Now we have to finish it with honesty." Ryan nodded. "No tricks, no pride, just truth." When Solace crossed the Concorde's border, the stars around them changed. Space shimmered like water, and strange colors danced in the dark. The ship's sensors went wild. It was like flying through a dream. Then the view cleared. Ahead of them floated the Council Sphere, a massive living structure made of light, coral, and metal. It pulsed with energy, surrounded by hundreds of alien ships. "Welcome, humans," said a calm voice through the comms. "You stand before the Concord of Worlds." Mira and Ryan were brought inside. The chamber glowed softly, filled with beings of all shapes, some made of light, some liquid, some solid. Their voices blended like music. One of them, a tall figure of silver mist, spoke first. "You expanded into sacred zones. You destroyed life webs that have existed for millennia. Why?" Mira took a deep breath. "Because we didn't understand. We thought space was empty. We thought survival meant taking more. We were wrong." A low hum passed through the chamber, disapproval, maybe sadness. Another being spoke, its voice echoing like thunder underwater. "And now you ask forgiveness?" "Yes," Mira said quietly. "Not for what we've done, but for what we're willing to change." She showed them images, Earth's new recovery efforts, halted mining projects, and messages of peace from across human colonies. The Concord watched in silence. Then they replied, "You speak of peace, but your leaders still plan for war." Mira's heart sank. They knew about Vale's secret shipyards. "Those are not our people," she said. "Those are our mistakes," the Concord whispered among themselves, their voices forming a soft vibration that filled the air. Finally, the silver figure spoke again. "Humanity will be judged. One cycle of probation. No expansion. No weapons beyond your homeworld. If you accept, you live. If you resist, you will be erased." Ryan glanced at Mira. "Do we have a choice?" She shook her head. "Only one. To prove we can be better." Just as they prepared to accept, alarms blared through the chamber. The Council sphere shook violently. Outside, explosions of light filled the void. An unknown fleet was attacking, human signals mixed with alien distortions. Someone was trying to destroy the hearing. Mira gasped. "Vale, he couldn't have." Ryan clenched his fists. "They'll think we did this!" The Concord guards raised their weapons. The trial was collapsing into chaos. Mira shouted over the noise, "Listen to me! This isn't us." But no one was listening anymore. The Council sphere burned with light and chaos. Sirens screamed, and alien ships outside clashed in brilliant silence. The Concorde's peace chamber, once calm and glowing, now shook with explosions of energy. Dr. Mira Sol and Captain Ryan. Dow struggled to stay on their feet as guards surrounded them. "Stop!" Mira shouted. "This attack isn't from us." But no one believed her. The Concord delegates were already calling for retaliation. Then the lights went out. In the darkness, Ryan heard a voice whisper through the comms. It was Admiral Cohen from Luna. "Mira, Ryan, listen carefully. Vale's last fleet has launched. They think the Concorde killed you. They're attacking the border." Ryan's face turned pale. "If they fire, the Concorde will destroy Earth." Mira closed her eyes, realizing what she had to do. "Then we stop both sides, right now." They rushed to the control platform. Concorde ships were already charging their weapons, preparing to erase the incoming human fleet. "Give me access to your network," Mira shouted at the silver mist being, the Concorde's judge. I can stop them. The being hesitated, then extended a glowing hand. If you fail, your species dies. Mira nodded. If I fail, we deserve it. She connected her device to the alien console and began transmitting the respect protocol, the same peaceful sequence she'd created months ago. The signal spread like light across space, jumping from the council sphere to the battlefield. Come on, she whispered. Please work. Out in the void, the human fleet's weapons powered up, but just before they fired, every system froze. The ships drifted silently. Engines died, targeting systems failed. The same thing happened to the alien defense lines. Every gun went dark. Every ship went still. Mira's voice echoed across the channels, clear and calm. This is humanity's voice. We came to listen, not destroy. The war ends now, or there will be no one left to win it. Her message reached both fleets. For the first time, human and alien pilots looked at the same silent battlefield and lowered their weapons. Inside the council sphere, the conquered judge spoke softly. You stopped the war, using our own harmony. Mira bowed her head. No, we learned it from you. The chamber glowed bright again. The conquered voted in unison. The verdict: humanity will live, but under strict conditions. No new colonies, no weapons in deep space, and shared patrols to protect sacred systems. Captain Rian smiled faintly. So we're on probation? Mira laughed softly. Yes, but at least we're still part of the galaxy. Months later, trade routes reopened. Alien and human scientists began to work side by side. Children on Earth learned new star names, alien words of peace. At night, Mira often looked up at the sky. Some stars glowed faintly green, the Concorde's light, always watching. They could have ended us, Ryan said one evening. They didn't, Mira replied. They made us listen. Above them, the stars pulsed together, slow, steady, alive. The war that began with silence had ended with understanding, and for the first time, humanity truly belonged to the galaxy. The war burned across 1,000 worlds. Planets fell, stars turned silent. But even in defeat, humanity refused to vanish. We learned, we changed, and we remembered what it meant to belong to the galaxy, not own it. When the smoke cleared, only one truth remained. Life, in any form, is stronger together. And though the galaxy once feared us, it would one day forgive us. Because sometimes the end of a war is the beginning of understanding. Cue soft orchestral music, image of stars reconnecting into light. Fade to title card, when the galaxy declared war on humanity.